Hi my darlings, I'm Sophie Darling and welcome back to my channel. If you love anime, heartfelt reactions and deep dives into symbolism and themes, then you are in the right place. Before we jump into today's reaction, don't forget to hit that like button to show some love, subscribe if you haven't already, and please do ring that notification bell so you never miss a moment of fun. And if you want even more exclusive content like early access to my reactions, full-length anime watch-alongs, and an amazing community of fellow anime lovers, then please do check out my Patreon. You can find a link for it in the description box below. Your support truly does mean the world as it helps to keep these reactions coming, and I'd love to have you join our cozy little anime family. And today we are reacting to episode 32 of Death Note. I'm a little nervous how it's going to go now that we've a new character being introduced so close to the end. And he seems very intense, very obsessed and dedicated to Kira's ambition. So obviously a perfect choice for Light to pick someone like that. I always get a bit nervous when a show is coming to an end and a new character gets introduced and there's very little time in which to truly flesh out that character and also wrap up the story at the same time, because we have 6 more episodes. My concern is that they are just going to rush through things in order to get to the end, which is going to feel very disorientating. I kind of did feel a bit disorientated. I think it was episode 28 where it was 1 minute they're in Japan, then they're in LA, then there's the could they potentially be in that helicopter that the missile's going on? No, this helicopter is something else entirely. It was a tiny bit confusing to follow, just primarily because you were jumping from one scene to the next, to the next, to the next, and they understand that they're having to fit in as much as they can before the show does come to an end. But for me, I was very kind of lost and confused and was trying to follow along as best I could, but it is quite fast-paced in comparison to the first 25 episodes of Death Note. And I think that's what makes it feel really jarring, is we are used to the slow progression, we're used to the building up to the tension, building up to the mystery, and this second half kind of has none of that build-up. But I do like the introduction of Near and Mellow. I don't think that they are carbon rip-offs of L. I understand that people might feel that way because they were all raised in the same environment and they were essentially groomed to be L's successors. So of course there's going to be likenesses and similarities between them, but I think it's unfair to say that they have no personality or direction of their own. I think it's very clear that they both also have their own goals, their own ambitions, their own dedication to catching Kira that is also separate to their love and admiration for L. And I've also had a few people mention like Mellow and Near aren't Light and L, they're the two sides of L, which I get it, but I also don't think it's unfair to say that they are also a really good representation of the conflict and tension that we have seen between Light and L. And I think it's interesting to see them as the Light and L dynamic because it's showing that these personalities can work in coalition with each other. They're not directly opposed, but instead of these personalities being in a strictly antagonistic relationship where they're trying to one up and gain over one another, I think what the writers are going to show us is that these personalities can bring out the best aspects of each other. And it's not something that we really saw with Light and L. Yes, we saw them working together. This was a facade. This was Light's fake persona. When Light lost his memories, we also saw Light's personality revert away from some of the attributes that we associate with Kira, which is emotional irregularity, hot-headedness, arrogance, cockiness. He was more similar to L in regards to being logical, methodical, and quite restrained in his emotions, whereas Mellow is very similar in personality to the Light that has the Death Note. That's where I'm coming from. I'm not sure if I'm making much sense. It's kind of hard to try and explain it, but the way I see it is that we have Light's personality whilst in possession of the Death Note with L's personality, but instead of them being enemies working to bring each other down, the writers are showing us that this relationship can be mutually beneficial, that there are positives to this dynamic, almost like a yin and yang, like near and mellow balance each other. They bring out the better aspects of one another. We haven't seen that yet, but that's what I feel like the writing is going to show us. I'm going to stop talking though, and without further ado, let's get into episode 32. And let's see how this goes, because Misa has no memories now. She completely has no access to Death Note, no Shinigami eyes. I always thought that Misa might be killed off, that Light would get sick of her and get rid of her, but now I'm wondering if she might actually survive Light's tyranny. Delete. Brutal.
And compared to the average Japanese person, Teru had been through and seen far worse miseries and even witnessed death.
Okay, so we learned a little bit about his backstory. Oh, so this episode might be dedicated to him then, because he was just kind of dropped in at the end of episode 31, so will be nice to learn a little bit more about how he becomes infatuated with Kira. He looks a little bit like Light. I think it's the hair. Little shits.
In this world, there is only good and evil. That was one of the first universal truths I grasped from observing the world around me when I was a child. Every human being, without exception, ends up falling into one category or the other.
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that.
But there were always enemies. Good against evil.
No! Stop! Let go of me, please!
It's a very black and white way of looking at the world and ignoring the intersections of people's personalities.
There were times when it seemed evil would triumph over good. Hearing those words of gratitude from the victims made me want to save them again and again.
I don't think I agree with the idea that everyone is either good or evil. I think that's too simple. It's too narrow-sighted. It overlooks the fact that every person in the world is capable of enacting horrible, cruel actions. I think looking at humans as you either fall into evil or you fall into good is like a hierarchical way of thinking. It's not looking at the nuance of the human life, especially when talking about children, because children are shaped by the environment around them. Somebody that you think is evil because they're a bully could also be bullied at home, and they could be exuding that frustration and lack of control onto others. I wouldn't argue that that child is evil. I would argue that that child is struggling and misunderstood. It's a lot more complicated. Every person has the propensity for evil. Every person has the propensity for good. And I don't think committing a few actions that are seen as negative would automatically class you as evil, much in the same way that having good intentions doesn't make you good. Hence the terminology, the path to hell is paved with good intentions, because you could be well-natured, you could want to do good in the world, but if you sit back and do nothing, are you truly enacting good? Are you truly helping to make the world a better place? So I think this whole idea of everyone's good or evil just ignores the nuance that is being a human in general, the aspect of free will, the aspect of choice, but also circumstances, also the way in which you grow up, the way in which your environment shapes you. There are so many factors that go into making a person that I'm not quite happy with the way that it's phrased, that everyone's good, everyone's evil. And I guess that's his way of saying, you know, I stand up for the little person and I feel good in doing so. And that in itself is being good. But it doesn't mean that what he goes on to do as an adult is justified goodness. It's not. It's contradictory. Going on to murder people that you believe are doing wrong doesn't necessarily make you a good person. It doesn't make you someone that is suddenly morally above others. And that's sort of where the issue comes in as well with goodness, is that some people will see themselves as so good that they are superior to that of other people, and they will look down on others for not being as good as themselves, and that in itself is negative. It's a sense of egotism, it's a sense of arrogance. That's not being a good person if you're looking down on others as not being able to live up to the same ideals that you hold for yourself. Again, it's a very simplistic view, and it's not one that I ascribe to. I think everyone has the propensity for goodness and everyone has the propensity to be evil. It's like an age-old question as to whether good and evil truly exists, because everyone has the potential to be both. And humans are so complicated that there is literally no one that can sit here and say that I have never had an evil thought in my life, because that would just be straight up a lie. And no one here can categorically say that they have never harmed somebody, whether intentional or unintentional. We all have the propensity to be cruel and to be malicious. And that's not because we're evil inclined, but because humans are fallible. We are influenced and corrupted by the world around us. And not looking into the nuance of the human personality kind of irks me a little.
Middle school was another matter entirely. The more I confronted evil, the more enemies I had to face. Victims would become participants, and even the people watching would be influenced by evil and become enemies themselves.
Like, bullies are assholes, but could you really argue that they're inherently evil and have no propensity for good as an adult?
The only person who
'Cause,
understood
again,
my
they're still
hopes and
kids.
remained my ally was the woman who raised me on her own. My mother. No. Rather, it used to be my mother.
Teru, not everything in the world is going to work the way you want it to. You have to stop doing this. There's no reason for you to suffer so much for your beliefs. What do you think you're proving getting hurt like this?
My mother was wrong. She didn't side with justice. She was one of those who deserved to be deleted. That was when the miracle happened. 4 of the worst delinquents from my school lost control of their car while they were joyriding. They died instantly. One bystander was killed as well. That
His mum.
bystander was my mother.
You're a fucking psycho. Oh my goodness. Oh, she deserves to die because she cares about her son enough to try and tell him that life is complicated and more complex than your moral justifications, that you cannot believe that everybody should adhere to your moral beliefs. This is why humans are multifaceted individuals. Everyone has a different morality system. Everyone has different beliefs. But to sit and say because your mom doesn't agree with you that she deserves to die because she's standing in the way of just fucking hell. Wow, okay. Yeah, there's something psychologically wrong with this kid.
With these people out of the picture, how many others would benefit as a result? Clearly their victims were relieved. But beyond that, wouldn't everyone in my class be happier now that they were gone?
What? Your mom wasn't
Sure enough, I was
harming
right.
people.
Our classroom became a peaceful, joyful place. There will always be consequences for evil deeds. That is the way the world is. The way it should be.
Your mom was literally a hard-working single mother raising you, cared about you, worried about you, and you suddenly thought she was evil because she opposed you. Me.
I saw that there will always be those who have no reason to exist, and the closer they grew to adulthood, the less likely it was that they would ever reform. They could only be deleted.
Hell, he's a petty individual, isn't he?
That's why I became a prosecutor. It is the role of the prosecutor to see that evil is brought to justice. It was an ideal job for me.
I don't know if I would trust him being a prosecutor, though.
Everything that had been happening around me,
Especially with such a
wasn't
narrow-minded
coincidence.
sight of right and
It was
wrong.
divine justice. God had been watching me. God had seen how I did not surrender to evil. He reached out his hand and punished the
Then
evil
again,
people for me.
now I think about it, a prosecutor essentially, that is their job, is to like argue what is right or wrong based on the legal system. So there is kind of no nuance to it, whereas the defense is the one that will look into the intersections of how somebody comes to do what they do. So I guess it is technically the right role for him.
God recognized me, as I had always hoped. Not only that, but he found me worthy of sharing his power to eliminate evil.
Yeah, I can see why Light
With
picked him
this,
now.
it doesn't matter if I can't hear his voice.
They're very
I shall figure
similar.
out what Kira wants and carry out his will. Delete, 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 delete.
Okay. He needs help. If a Death Note is owned in the human world against the god of Death's will, the god of Death is permitted to stay in the human world in order to retrieve it. Okay. So essentially what Ryuk is doing. Well, Ryuk wants to be here. In that case, if there are other Death Notes in the human world, the gods of Death are not allowed to reveal to humans the Death Note's owners or its location.
Mikami made the choice to kill Demegawa himself. I never requested it. An understandable move, but now there's no spokesperson. Kira needs a voice. And at the moment, I can't make any moves myself. What will he do?
We need a spokesperson to spread his word to the people. Then I will take the initiative.
He's chosen a new spokesperson to take Demegawa's place.
That woman.
Oh, wait. I thought he was going to do it, but
Kiyomi
evidently
Takada.
not.
Starting today, it will be my duty to spread the word of Kira accurately and quickly. Me,
There's no
Kiyomi
mistaking
Takada.
it. That's
I
the
am
girl
not
that
only
Light
his
dated in
spokesperson,
university.
but also his liaison with the people of the world.
You've
Yeah, but
moved quickly,
Mikani didn't
Mikami.
know that.
However, it won't take them long to find the connection between us, which could be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
No, on second thought, she's not a bad choice. It's one I never would have considered since I already knew her. I can definitely use her, but I'll have to find a way to contact her soon.
How's
Kiyomi
Misa
Takada.
gonna feel about that? She's gonna be
I had a chance
fuming.
to meet her when I was part of a debate program she was hosting. She was a shrewd and fair host for the most part. She hates crimes and social evils with a passion.
I mean, there's hating crimes with a passion, and then there's being willing to murder others and to be petty in terms of who you choose.
It'd be too suspicious for Kira to choose an ex-girlfriend as his representative.
I don't
There's been
know.
no sign of Light sending her any messages.
To be honest, I know her. Back in university, she and I were actually dating for a little while.
He has no intention to hide the connection.
If she's acting as his spokesperson, she must be receiving orders from him. She's in contact with Kira somehow. I think our best bet is to use that connection to find a way to Kira through her.
But that's also going to be
But
his
Taki's probably
gateway
doing it because
to
Kira's threatening her, right? She might be too scared to help us out with
directing her and
investigation.
using her for his own will as Kira.
I'm not too worried about that. I know her current cell phone number. I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to convince her once we get talking. We used to talk about a lot of different topics while we were in college, and one thing was clear. She worships Kira. But we might be able to use that to our advantage.
Is that why you dated her to
The
begin
police
with?
claim they support Kira, but aren't doing
Possibly.
anything one way or the other. So I'll reveal that I've joined the police and ask her what we can do to help Kira further. To her, it'll sound like a good idea.
I agree. It'd be foolish for us to pass up a lead like this.
In that case, I'll call her tonight.
I didn't think she was gonna get brought back into this, which is wild. I thought she was just kind of like a throwaway character at the beginning of the series, but apparently not. I wonder if he'll start having a romantic thing with her.
Yes, hello?
Kiyomi, this is Light Yagami.
Light?
Hi.
Yeah,
It's
she's
been a while.
blushing.
What's going on?
Kiyomi.
She's still
I have
into
something
him.
important to tell you. Could we meet somewhere? I have a favor to ask you.
A favor?
Yeah.
Don't play innocent and humble with me, Light. You wouldn't have called if you didn't think it was possible to see me.
Ever since we graduated, I wanted to talk to you again, but I never had the chance. And now it looks like our jobs have brought us together. After so much time, our paths are about to cross again. Call me
Smooth.
crazy, but I feel like this is fate.
God, he's
Let's
risen
see
her
about
up,
our
isn't he?
jobs. I'm working with
Jeez.
the police now. That was part of what I wanted to talk to you about. In person.
All right. I may be able to help you, depending on what you're asking for.
I appreciate it. At the very least, I just want you to hear what I have to say. Anywhere. Just us two.
Well, okay then.
He's such a
After tonight's
manipulative
broadcast
little
is finished.
shit, isn't he?
That sounds perfect. I'll book a hotel room for us.
A hotel
Hey?
room. Are you sure?
The last I heard, you were still living with Miss Amane.
Well, to be honest, Misa's just not intelligent enough to be my partner.
Yes?
your cooking is really good, and I appreciate that you're doing everything for me,
Oh,
but it's been
Misa.
5 days now.
Right.
Light doesn't know about you hanging around all the time, does he? I mean, I know that Light trusts me totally, but don't you think most people would start saying I'm cheating on him? Oh, he'd be so jealous.
Nier and the others told me that this woman's supposed to be the second Kira. But could it really be this unbelievably stupid girl?
My God, everyone's so mean. Damn.
Kira will never forgive those people whose existence is a threat to justice. But he will also not forgive those who live wastefully and refuse to use their abilities to contribute to the betterment of society.
So Kira's gonna kill lazy people now?
You're kidding me.
You're taking this too far, Mikami. It's too early to be making those kinds of statements.
This is what I mean. Like, I could maybe understand his reasoning for killing criminals, but I just never see it as staying with that. I always see it as it escalating to getting rid of anyone that they see as undesirable, as not benefiting their perfect society. And it's just a dangerous path to go down. I know that's not Light that's saying that, but Mikami definitely is psychologically unhinged. Oh boy. Are they about to watch him have a straight up affair? Like on cameras?
To be honest, it doesn't seem like that long since we last saw each other.
What the hell is Light doing? He's not saying anything.
Don't tell me you've never been in love before, E-Day.
How's it going?
The mood's perfect.
That's not what I meant.
The mood is perfect.
Please excuse me.
Kira, is it Mikami?
She just said it's Kira.
Kira's contacting her directly?
It's
You should
Mikami.
answer it.
Maybe Light gets rid of Mikami
Hello.
because he's like, what the fuck are you
No,
doing,
I'm with a
boy?
friend right now. Yes, we're alone.
If luck is on my side, I can get on the phone myself. Well, Mikami, can you make it happen?
He said that he wants to speak to you.
Perfect. I was right to choose you, Mikami.
She's passed the
Oh,
phone
this
to
is all
Light.
part of
It could be
Mikami's
dangerous if
game.
he's the real thing.
Yes, hello?
Who am I speaking to?
5 pages on November 26th? I don't get it. What do you mean?
You're God!
You're doing well, Mikami. Let's just see how much you can figure out.
God, you're not free to speak right now.
Yes.
You're being watched at the moment.
Yes. But how can I trust you're the real Kira?
Is he asking me to judge someone right now?
Turn to Sakura TV!
What's that? Sakura TV?
Quick, let's check it out.
We'll invite Kira back to our program, no matter what it might take.
He died. This is bad. He's the real thing.
Mikami. Yes. You're even better than I expected.
What? He's removing the bugs?
We don't have a choice.
Okay, I'm confused by that. Let me Google if that note needs to be translated. What did it say? Because that's weird. Why would they just go along with like saying let's remove the bugs? That doesn't make any sense to me. Oh, okay. So pretty much from what I can gather is people have said that the note essentially reads that Kira is going to send in some of his people to sweep the room and that Kira won't speak to Light unless all the bugs and cameras are removed. Well, that makes sense. If that's what the note says, then that makes sense. But like not knowing what the note says and then them just being like, I'm removing the bugs was like, what? Like, where's that come from? Yeah, okay, I get that now.
I don't understand. What's going on?
Now I can talk without any constraints.
What?
Listen, Kiyomi. I am the real Kira. I won't allow you to ask Kiyomi who I am. You don't need to know my identity.
Yes. I'll leave the rest to you, God.
I can't believe it's you. You were the only man I ever really admired. To be honest, the
Oh,
only
God.
man I ever felt a connection with. And now, to find out you're Kira, it's incredible.
Please, join me, Kiyomi.
So there's going to be,
You will
oh
be the
no.
goddess of the new world.
So I guess bye, Misa. Because she's not intelligent enough for Light. Oh.
Light, are you okay?
Yeah, Kiyomi was able to work things out with Kira. I've decided that from now on, I'm gonna pretend to be dating her. We might be able to find Kira that way.
Delete. Delete.
Pretend to the police, but he's actually going to be deleting her. Deleting her? Sorry, dating her? Fuck. Mikuni going delete in the background just completely like fucked me there. Okay, so I never expected that she was going to come back into it. I kind of just thought she was maybe like a throwaway character, but it's kind of interesting that they've introduced her as the spokesperson for Kira and also now the goddess of the new world, which could just be his way of manipulating her into working for his agenda, like he did with Misa. That's what he tends to do, is manipulate women by using their affection towards him. He really did rizz her up though. I probably would have fell for it, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like me and Light would be enemies to lovers. Maybe. I did really enjoy hearing Mikuni's backstory, and I think it's nice to see someone else's development of justice, especially because I think Mikuni is more black and white than Light is in terms of what is right, what is wrong. Mikuni absolutely is like dying on the hill that everyone is either evil or good, even children, and goes to such an extent because his mom disagrees with his moral standing in life. She deserves to be erased, and maybe that was his justification to cope with the trauma of losing his mom, you know, the only parental figure in his life. But to still have that conclusion as an adult is quite extreme. So it's kind of emphasizing to us that in comparison to Mikuni, Light is genuinely not as narrow in his perspective, that Light actually looks more into the nuance of the human personality and the human characteristics than Mikuni does. Mikuni is pretty much on the hill that bullies as children will grow up to be evil people. I know he says the closer you get to adulthood, the less likely you are to change, and he even does somewhat acknowledge that children will be children. But I also don't think it's right to sit and say that, you know, someone who's a bully as a teenager is automatically going to be a criminal as an adult. There are all sorts of factors that can come into play where children can outgrow those tendencies, or teenagers can break away from volatile, violent situations that can lead to a perspective change, or can have experienced something that has led them to realize that, oh, I have been a horrible person and I should change because I'm not happy with who I am. This is what I mean by like the aspects of being a human is multifaceted and complex. It's not as simple as someone is good, someone is evil. I don't think I've ever seen Light categorically go, okay, this person is evil. Light is just very much of the mindset that if anyone is against him, then they are his enemy, but not because they're evil, but because they stand in direct opposition to his ambitions, to his goals. Whereas Mikuni is very much like, nah, if you don't agree with me, you're evil. Like, if you do anything that I think is not contributing to a better world, then you're automatically evil. E.g., pretty much insinuating that if you're lazy and don't contribute to this new world, then you're going to be disposed of and deleted. So it is interesting to see the duality between Kira and Mikuni and how they view the world and how they view what the new world should be. I wonder if Mikuni is going to come into conflict with Light, because obviously Light has his own idea of what he wants this new world to be, and Mikuni also has a very strong sense of moral justice and believes that he also knows what's best, and at the minute he's happy to go along with what Light wants. Who's to say that that's going to continue? What if he takes issue with Light not cracking down on the people that he personally believes shouldn't exist in the world? Is that going to put him at odds with Light? I feel like Mikuni might take a step too far. I feel like Mikuni might take a step too far and Light just kind of goes, nah, you're more a burden than a help. You're more a hindrance than a help. And then we end up seeing Mikuni getting deleted. It's such an odd phrase, delete, 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 as if he's like playing a game. But yeah, the fact that he's gone into the legal career doesn't shock me, especially because Light's sense of morality led him to wanting to be in the police. Mikuni being a prosecutor who has to see things in very much like black and white perspective of like good and evil, right and wrong. He would be very good in his role, whereas it's the defense that usually have to argue nuance, that have to argue for mitigating circumstances or mitigating factors, and that we shouldn't just judge based on the crime itself, but looking into the details of the crime. So, yeah, it does kind of suit his perspective. But it was interesting to learn more about Mikini, about his background. And yeah, Light is fully back onto his manipulating women scheme. Now a new woman's come into the picture, I am a little more worried about Misa. I've always potentially bounced with the idea that Misa could end up being killed by Light when she outruns her use, but now she has no use to him, and another woman has come into the picture that he deems as more intelligent and more beneficial to his mission. Even going as far to call her the goddess of the new world, which he has never said to Misa, kind of worries me a little that he might just inevitably go, okay, I have no need for Misa. She's in the way of my grand ambitions. She's in the way of this new relationship. So time to delete and get rid of her. Didn't realize Mello was going to be bugging the house to watch Misa. And poor Misa's getting like the brunt of the stick. Everyone calling her an idiot and stupid when, you know, she is actually more intelligent than I think people give her credit for. But what are you going to do? It's just the writing at this point. But thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this react, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment below to help boost this video into the algorithm. And until next episode, bye.